All right, good evening, everybody. I see that we have quite a few people on, and we'll probably be adding some more people. I think we have 16 people on right now. We have Councilmember Manny David. We have Councilmember Tony Davitt. We have Councilmember Molly Rose. We have Mayor Jim O'Brien. I know that Councilmember Bill Martini and Andy Williams are going to join us as well. Tonight, we're here to talk about a potential project, not a project that's been approved, but and again, this goes back to when we're talking about Butler, Bessie, and all the other roadways. Whenever there is any consideration of paving a certain roadway or paving a certain area, it has to go through town council. And when we brought it to town council, we knew that they would ask for a public input meeting. And that was one of the things that we talked about prior to the meeting, was a suggestion to have one of these meetings. So we're going to get into the specifics of why we're looking at this specific area for paving. So the background is that in September, a Waste Pro truck broke an axle, and also it punctured the diesel tank. If you go on the Park Ave roundabout, you can see that there's a huge divot in the roundabout. And then on Lake Butler Boulevard that we just repaved, it ruined some of the roadway on that. So what we did was to work with Middlesex, because they are using 2019 dollars for our repaving projects or any paving projects that we're looking at. Now, if you're in the industry, you know that when you have paving projects, a lot of the money that goes towards these things are through mobilization. They have to get the asphalt machines out there. They have to get everybody out there. So that's one of the things that we were looking at. And again, when the vendor provided us the costs, it mirrored the ones in 2019. And that's, again, one of the reasons we looked at Lake Butler Boulevard and we did those. But these were the two areas. And when we're getting these numbers and we're getting these good prices, we're like, okay, where are some of the areas that have been discussed in the past, maybe discussed in the future? And maybe a good area that would maybe hopefully shore up, if there's any issues. So we looked at the area that is on 5th and Forest. And again, it's a very small area and it's low, and we'll get into the map and so on and so forth. But as I said, since mobilization is the majority of the cost, we want to get the best bang for our buck and have 3 projects instead of 2. And that's why we're here tonight. And the reason that we selected this area was with the amount of traffic that we have with the parking lot that's there. We're looking at handicap accessibility of adding handicap spots in those spaces that we're looking at on the south side of 5th Avenue. The construction of the new pavilion, I think everybody's heard about that. It's going to be adjacent to that. And also, again, with the events that we have and with the amount of foot traffic that goes from the parking lot to that area, when you have a rain or when you're on the weekends, you're not grading and stuff like that, it just creates an unsafe surface. And it's not a surface that we're able to continuously maintain and make it completely smooth. Now, people have asked for bricks and stuff like that. People pretty much know how those bricks react when they drive through town. They become tripping hazards. They eventually become hazards. And we've talked about like the stamped concrete or stamped asphalt, and that just adds on to the cost. And brick would be probably twice as much as what the paving would be considered. And again, with all the dirt roads that we have in the area, especially keeping the parking lot dirt and forest dirt, eventually all that'll flow up onto the new pavement if it is going to be approved and cover that up. Another thing too is, again, as I said before, with any potential paving project, town council needs to approve it. That's why we hold these public input meetings. We want to get the feel of the community. If you want this, great. If you don't want it, this great. No hard feelings or anything like that. As staff, we have to consider liabilities, we have to consider accessibility, and we make these kind of suggestions or recommendations to town council, but nothing gets approved prior to, a town council adoption of this. And again, town council requested the public comment. And this is a small defined area that is a heavy traffic area and an area that we were trying to enhance some ADA accessibility. So this is not a start to any incremental paving projects. I know that was one of the fears of Butler, Bessie, and some of the other areas, but no, this is a small area that we're looking at, that we're discussing because of the pricing and because of the mobilization costs, and because of the safety, the area that it's in, because it's a heavy trafficked area, just to make sure that it is easier accessibility to all of those things that we previously discussed.
Hey,
And
Robert, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Bill Martini's trying to get on, and it says that the host will let you in soon. So I just wanted to.
no worries.
Okay.
He's getting in now.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's hard to present and be the admin at the same time, but
I know.
we keep going. So the total project cost would be about $57,000. Now, the other two projects that were approved by town council for the repair on 6th Avenue and Park, and the Lake Butler Boulevard paving, that is going to be absorbed by Waste Pro. Because again, it was because of their truck that created that issue over in those two areas. So when people say, okay, well, this is just a start to us incrementally paving the entire area, that is not true. We're just looking to do a select area because of the heavy traffic, because of the events, because we want to enhance ADA accessibility, and with the improvements that were suggested and going to be implemented over in Town Square. That's why we're looking at this area now, because of the pricing that we get. And the area that we're again looking at is, again, you see 5th and Forest. Here's where the old town facilities or temporary facilities were. Here are the two handicap spots that we have. There's one up here. Can everybody see my cursor? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, thank you. All right, we have one handicap spot right here. And if you take a look at it, it's pretty tore up because of the bricks. I know the brewery has a handicap spot right there, which they're required to do. But we have nothing right here until you get to over here where the temporary facilities were. So what the town is looking at potentially doing would be to add pavement from the bricked area to Forest, and then create an apron to the parking lot. And then with option B would be to go ahead and pave this parking area and making a few of those ADA accessible. Because right now, if you are handicapped and this spot was filled and this spot was filled and the other spots were filled, you would have to take it all the way up here and go around and come up here. So we were thinking about adding something over here to where you'd have access here, or over here, where the pavilion would be going. So again, today is just a public input meeting, and we have pretty much the entire town council on right now. So we want to hear from you, the residents, on what are your thoughts. Again, this is not us trying to change the charm of Windermere, but we just see an issue that is out there as far as, with the amount of events that we have, the success of these events, whether it's food trucks, Windermere Wine and Dine, Pet Fest, all those different events. How can we make it much more safer for people to traverse from one area to another, and also provide those additional ADA accessibility spots for them. So with that said, I am here to answer any questions. We have our Public Works Director, Tanya Elliott Moore, on. I believe John Fitzgibbon is on as well. So we just want to hear from you. Either you want to add it in the chat, or if you want to go ahead and just raise your hand and ask a question. Council members are here to listen to you. They're not really, I mean, they can talk to each other and so on and so forth. But this is your time. There's no time limit on how much you want to talk, how long you want to talk, or what you want to talk about, but hopefully it's related to this project itself. So with that said, if you want to raise your little hand icon, we can go ahead and talk about this. The first one is Bob McKinley, so go ahead.
Thank you, Robert. The options A and B, are they included in that 57,000?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's a good idea as far as I'm concerned. It does increase accessibility along there for handicap. The only point that I have discussed with other people, and they brought it to me, would be to block Fifth Avenue at Forest. Because right now what's happening is a lot of this traffic is going back into the residential area. We need to do what we can to protect the residential areas. We did it over at Pocket Park on the other side of Fifth Avenue. No need for a turnaround, as there's plenty of space there with the parking lot and the parking area to do a turnaround if need be. But I'd like to see Fifth Avenue blocked off there at Forest. You could have a walkthrough for golf carts or ADA, whatever, but that would prevent the traffic going back into the residential area. That's just something to take a look at.
Thanks, Bob. And again, we're not paving the parking lot. We are just paving the areas that people traverse from one location to another.
Yeah, I understand that. Just what you have there is option A, B, and the street. I'm just saying that there is space there. If a truck need to turn around, they can turn around. Rather than go into the residential area. I'm looking at restricting access to the residential area from that area right there.
Gotcha. And then one of the questions that came up on the chat was from Stephen Withers. Yes, we would definitely require them to have a bond to make sure that any and all damage that is done to, if this were to proceed, they would have to repair that. Teresa Schretzman Myers. You have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm opposed to this project. My name is Teresa Schretzman Myers. I'm at 2713 Tryon Place, Windermere, Florida. Mainly because of the impacts to the environment. The Butler Chain of Lakes is the headwaters to Shingle Creek in the Everglades. And every time we do a paving project, we impact the roots of the trees, and they generate, especially pavement, generates petroleum-based asphalt. It's a high VOC, volatile organic compound substance. And the concrete in the asphalt production contaminates stormwater and downstream lakes, which is the Butler Chain, with high concentrations of suspended solids, toxic hydrocarbons, and other chemicals, oils, and greases, and heavy metals. I do not think it's a good idea to use any non-pervious surface in this area, because all of that non-pervious surface is going to push those VOCs and those toxic heavy metals right into the Butler Chain. There are other better not permeable surfaces that you can use. You can use something called decomposed granite, which is what the state parks use and a lot of the botanical gardens. You can still make it handicapped accessible using decomposed granite. You're not grading, you're not grubbing the street, impacting tree roots along Forest or Fifth. And there is a way less impact to the environment and to our Butler Chain of Lakes in that water. And if anything has taught us that we've got to protect the tree canopy, it's the most recent hurricanes, where you can see the more we take out tree canopy, the more flooding and impacts we have, because those big trees do a ton of stormwater mitigation. They're giant, awesome engineering machines. Just one 42-inch live oak can handle 48,000 gallons of stormwater mitigation. And every time we impact these big trees by grubbing and grading for paving projects or construction, we're impacting those trees for our Butler Chain and for our urban forest. So I think there's better alternatives. You do not need to pave and put this toxic stuff into the water or impact our trees. There's just better ways to do it. And I would highly recommend that you guys with decomposed granite, which is what the state parks use, which is what the botanical gardens use. It's way less impact. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Teresa. All right, Brandy.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Teresa on all the points regarding the trees. I mean, I'll kind of defer to her comments on that because she's 100% right. The other thing is in terms of, you know, ADA compliance, yes, we do have the 2 spots on Forest Street and we currently have 1 in the already bricked area, but there are 5 other spots in that bricked area that are currently not handicapped. So there is an alternative of, you know, obviously you won't get 5 handicap spots out of that, but you should be able to turn 5 of them into 3 more handicap spots. And that gives us 4 handicap spots right there. That gives us plenty of access to the new pavilion. It gives us plenty of access to, you know, the stuff that's in the area. As far as, you know, the brewery goes, I mean, one of the things we talked about when the brewery was being approved was, you know, how much impact this was going to have, how much more traffic it was going to have, how much more parking was going to need, you know, be needed. And there are 2 parking spots in front of it, albeit they're not paved, but they're plenty solid. I've seen people get out and go to the farmer's market. I've seen them go to other things in wheelchairs, and we've still got a parking lot that's gravel anyway. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me why we would pave that when there is the option, if we're looking for ADA compliance, to get that somewhere else. In terms of paving it, it's going to impact the trees. It's going to impact the water runoff. It's going to impact, you know, digging down to do whatever is needed. And I just don't see the necessity. I mean, I drove out there today. We have 1 handicap spot in the Dixie Cream. We have 1 handicap spot by the basketball courts. We have 2 on the back of Forest Street. We've got 2 in the library parking lot. We've got 1 outside the library parking lot on the south, on the north side of 6th Street. And then, you know, we've pretty much got them staggered throughout town. It's pretty well done. We don't have any in the gravel parking lot. And we didn't pave the parking lot because we didn't need to for the ADA compliance. It's hard packed and we don't have any handicap spots in there. So, I mean, I'm not even sure there's any more requirements for us to need additional ones, but if we do, we could put it right where the brick is already at, and then you're not having to do anything. You're not having to spend the money. And, you know, I'll say, people have told me, even my husband will say to me, just because something's on sale or you're getting a good deal doesn't mean that you need to spend the money or pave something just to piggyback off of another project because the deal is a good deal. I mean, there really needs to be a valid reason to do it that makes sense for the residents and the environment, and creating more paving just for more, you know, out of towners to be coming in for things isn't necessarily looking out for the residents' best interest. I think it's looking out for businesses more than the residents. So.
Okay. Thanks, Randy. And then just 2 corrections. 1, this area in front of the brewery is not parking. It is for
Loading
and unloading. People park there. They shouldn't be parking there
all the time.
all the time. And I do talk to Andy and just say, listen, you know, and he completely understands too. So they're moving people left and right whenever they park in front of that area. I do believe that people have backed into areas. And then with the parking that's over here, with the amount of space that you need for handicap spots, you will have to lose at least probably maybe 1 or 2 spots that's over here. Which again, yes, we can do if we needed to in that brick area. This is again just an option that we're talking about because we have this area with the parking and it's connected to pretty much the town center.
Right. That brick part has 5 regular spots and 1 handicap now, correct?
We have 1 handicap spot right up here by the basketball court where we typically have the comfort houses. But what we're looking at as far as paving would be from this area right here and down. So I believe the impacts to any trees would be minimal, and we would make sure that we would use an arborist to take a look at that. But again, I just don't see a huge impact to any of the vegetation that is in this small area that we're looking at.
Well, there's always going to be some perceived need for this area needs paved or that area needs paved. So I still think it's a slippery slope. But yeah, when I said the non-handicap spots that are on the brick, I said there's 5 and it would probably be reduced to 3 if you made all of them handicap.
Yeah.
So I understand you'd lose 2 parking spots, but if the concern is having more ADA in that centralized area, it would accomplish that.
Again, hopefully the staff at Dixie Cream won't get handicap stickers to park there anymore. We start seeing those fill up at like 5 a.m.
I bet.
All right, thank you, Brandy. All right. Any other members of the public? Again, this is your time to let us know how you feel. Tom, as I saw you out there earlier at the Cal Palmer building, working on brick.
I was creating some handicap parking spots there.
Please fix the one that we have. I mean, it is jacked up. We're working on that one right now. A brick is not really the best when it comes to handicap parking, or as we can see, downtown traffic.
The thing with the pavement is a lot of things. One, it's downtown is, and I've been wanting to say this for a while, there's like 90% residential and 10% business. But yet what we do there affects 90% of the 100% of the residents. So when you pave a street cutting back to a residential area, you're creating more traffic flow just by the fact that it's paved. It looks like more of a public road. It sends people back there. I'm all for what Bob said about blocking that off. That would be, I think we should do that on like every third street anyway, but that's a whole nother topic, because many neighborhoods do that for crime prevention. They do it for quality of life. They do that to slow traffic down. There's a million reasons why we should do something like that. This area here has been kind of piecemeal together. I mean, I started seeing it years ago, and the trees started coming down, and then the brewery goes in, and the church allowed for the parking lot, which is fine. I'm not really criticizing any of that. This is just a continuation of that, I'm afraid. Well, let me ask you a question. Is there anything that needs to be done there that can't be done using brick?
Again, brick would be done.
Can I call you back in a minute? I'm just on.
Oh, sorry, we'll wait for Angela to get off the phone. Yeah, with brick, I tend to steer away from brick. The reason why is because it's a perpetual maintenance nightmare. As you can tell with a lot of the areas that we have in town. And then, we did discuss that at the town council meeting. Again, John said it'd be twice the cost. And again, you're looking at twice, again, as far as the perpetual maintenance of that area. So, if we were going to do any paving, again, it would be the paving, and then hopefully the dirt would go ahead and cover that up, as I believe it would. But, blocking off Fifth and Forest is something that we haven't considered, but it could be something we can talk about and explore.
So cost aside, I know that you can't do that, but we chose brick streets for downtown because we wanted brick streets downtown. They cost more. We chose to keep the dirt streets in Windermere because we wanted dirt streets in Windermere. They create more maintenance. I don't think we should make an exception for this street just because it may cost more or require more maintenance, because the residents have spoken loud and clear. They wanted brick streets downtown, even though the maintenance is higher, it costs more. And they want to maintain the dirt streets, even though the maintenance is higher. So I don't know why we would make an exception for this section when we've already made it pretty clear that we are willing to incur the extra costs on both those issues. Second subject is, I agree with Brandy. We have plenty of handicap downtown. And if we did want to have handicap access to this sound stage that's going in there, then we could easily convert that brick area across from Dixie into 3 more handicap spaces. All of downtown Winter Garden is bricked. They have plenty of handicap access, and they seem to be doing just fine. So brick is, I think, first of all, dirt. I understand the dirt issue because it is a heavy traffic area, and I get that. I think brick is the next best alternative. I think it'll solve all the problems that we are currently having there with the continued maintenance with the road graders and stuff. I think it will also meet all of the ADA requirements, which I don't think this is a question also. We are not currently in any sort of ADA violation situation now, are we, with either the brewery or town hall?
No, not with the brewery and not with town hall. I'd have to wait to see the square footage and the whatever the algorithm is for the pavilion.
Okay, so we don't really know if we're even going to be an ADA violation even after the pavilion's built, correct?
I mean, again, parking has always been an issue, especially when we have events, when we have, even on Tuesdays, when the church has their Tuesday morning Bible study. And the only areas that we have these handicap spots are 2 on Forest, 1 over here on Fifth, 1 over by Town Hall. And it's just so separated that, again, we're trying to look at options. Again, this isn't a definite. This is just something
Right.
that we're exploring.
Yeah, and I appreciate the discussion, but have you had any complaints from any handicapped people that said they have not been able to find adequate handicap parking downtown?
No, we haven't. And again, this is just something that we're exploring because of, again, Brandy might hit me up for this again, is because of the pricing. If we're going to do it, let's
Yeah.
explore. This would be the time to do it.
So we haven't had any complaints from anybody, and we're not in a current violation.
Not as of yet. No.
Okay. And all the same issues could be addressed if we bricked it. The residents have already stated that they were willing to incur the cost of brick because we did Main Street that way. And they're willing to incur the cost of maintenance because we voted on keeping the dirt streets that way. So I'm not trying to, berate the situation or berate anybody, but the reality is that I don't think we should make exceptions for this one little section based on what the past desires of the residents have been, just to accommodate, my fear is that the next thing is going to be, and this was brought up in the last meeting, by the way, well, if we pave that, we might as well pave between the police department and the library because it won't look symmetrical. That was the statement made in the last town council meeting. And then somebody said, well, then we might as well just pave between the two and encircle the whole block for deliveries to the back of the town hall and the sound center. So that's a fear we all have. Once again, I want to reiterate that I think that the residents of Windermere's concerns should be a top priority over what the people coming to visit Windermere want. And so by saying that, I say first option, leave it dirt. Second option, brick with the blocking off of Fifth, because if we don't do that, it's going to just continue to be a big giant circle all the way around that, especially if we get more traffic down there for the soundstage. We don't currently have any people complaining about the ADA opportunities down there, and we're not in any violation. So I don't know if either one of those are really good arguments at this point. And based on that, I say brick and then consider blocking it off.
Okay.
And thank you for this forum.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And with the, I think it was ADG or Wanamaker and Schultz, I think it was, they came up with the first plan for the town admin facilities. It did include those areas to be paved, but town council was not in favor of paving that entire area and forest. So again, they said that anytime that we look at paving, it would be selective areas. And this was something that we're like, okay, well, this is an area that has a lot of heavy traffic, meaning foot traffic, pedestrian traffic, and coming in and out of here for either farmers markets, food trucks, stuff like that.
I've seen those plans. Those plans actually include more than just those two streets. And that's what bothers me so much about it, because the town council said no to paving all the way around that block. And now here we are still doing 1/3 of what they said no to. So that's the part that bothers me the most, to be honest with you, because I've seen those plans, initial plans by Kevin Azus, where they do the same thing on Oakdale, was just to pave all those back streets to create access for all the businesses, which is what most downtown areas do. We, people that live back here, want to maintain the residence status and not a business status. So this is a part of a former proposal to pave that whole block. This actual paving of Fifth Avenue is a part of a former proposal to pave the whole block.
Understood. And I think that was pre-parking lot as well. So that's something we can cost out and take to town council as far as how much it would be to brick, if they are going to move forward with taking a look at this area. But
and thank you again for the once again this open forum.
Yeah, no, I mean, we do it for every project, and we'll continue to do so. We welcome all the input, and town council does too. So, with that said, I'll move forward to, Jason.
Sure. How are you guys? Sorry, I joined a little late. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. I didn't catch all the meeting, but I believe I have a couple points that I think I'd like to make. I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of bricking the street. I think the brick would be in following how the town looks, the charm of it, keeping the traffic speed down, things like that. And yeah, it would be an extra cost. But if we had to go one direction, brick would be how I would do it. However, I would like to see some other things around the town be completed project-wise before we take on something else. For me personally, we're waiting for the safe path to walk our children to school. I know a lot of families are waiting for that. And I thought a year ago that bridge was supposed to be being put in, and it hasn't. I know we have, that's probably number one on the list of things I'd like to see. That there's other improvements too, but essentially I just feel like we're maybe jumping the gun here and trying to bite off more than we can. And we don't have our other projects being buttoned up yet.
Yeah, and I can answer that. This is self-funded by the town, which is a lot easier to get approved. When you get into the Safe Routes to School program, you're dealing with the feds, you're dealing with FDOT District 5, the HMGP grants, you're dealing with Department of Emergency Management, you're working with FEMA, and you have to go through a ton of red tape in order to get the final approvals and the money for those projects. Now, with the Safe Routes to School program, that we have 90% plans done, we have the bridge all picked out, everything's ready to go. We have to do lap certification, and that lap certification has to go through engineer review and comments, which that has been done. And we should be lap certified by April. And then the funding will come to the town in July of 2023. That is something that we can't control as a town. We wanted the money earlier, but when the money goes from the feds to FDOT District 5, then they get their stuff together, then they contact you and say, oh, by the way, here's a whole nother set of stuff that you have to go through. And we're working with them right now to get that lab certification so we can go ahead and move that project forward, hopefully starting in July of 2023.
Okay. And being that this is basically self-funded by the town, but the drive behind this is to service our town businesses, essentially allow easier access. Shouldn't the town businesses be part of the burden cost on this? Maybe an assessment or something, a tie-in connection. If we're talking about option A, option B, that seems to really be right where the brewery is, and that would be beneficial parking for the brewery. So I don't feel like the town residents should be shouldering the full cost of this. That really should fall heavily on our businesses.
Okay, understood. And again, this is mostly for the benefit of the town square itself, because again, that's where we have all of our events, all the festivals, food farmers markets, so on and so forth. It's mostly everybody parks over here. Now they're parking on again the right of way, stuff like that. But again, it's just trying to direct them to this area and make it a lot easier for them to access the town square and not just.
But things like the farmers market and the food truck, what revenue does that bring into the town itself? What's our revenue from that?
Farmers market, probably between 40 and 50,000 a year. And then for the food trucks, probably about $20,000 a year.
Okay. I mean, I think that, those type of events should be possibly, we should look at increasing what we're charging for the food trucks or the rental of the spaces to quickly bring this money back after we spend it, essentially. I know it's for you could say the town square benefit, but I think really the vendors that utilize the town square should be shouldering this cost.
Understood. And the 40,000 from the farmers market goes to the tree board, and the 20,000 from the food trucks goes to Historical Preservation Board. So they do go to our various boards to help, with the tree board, help enhance, plant trees, do studies. And then with the HPB is to make sure that we are preserving any of our historical locations within town.
Right. Okay.
Because they really didn't have any real good funding sources. But now they do with those two different events. But thank you for your comments, Jason.
And just one other quick comment then. Again, like I said, I'm not necessarily opposed. I just have those points. But is there, are we designating, like, say, option B there? Is that going to be like maybe a golf cart only zone? Because I feel like right now we have plenty of parking for regular cars, but golf carts are ending up all over the place, which, I mean, that's the function of a golf cart, I suppose, but it would be nice to have a little bit more of an organizational parking just for golf carts.
Yeah, with the parking right now, again, with the church taking back the parking on Oakdale, we're going to be with the amount of businesses that we currently have in town. As you can see with the events and so forth, we technically don't have enough parking. People create their own parking. You can see it on the south side of the library right now. So, it's just a matter of just trying to add that parking to where it would drive people to that area where they can park. But when we have those large events, yeah, they're going to be parking anywhere they can anyway. So, but Jason, appreciate it.
Okay, well, that's just my thoughts I had on it.
And that's why we're here. All right, Angela, hopefully that was an emergency call that you got, but.
I'm so sorry about that. I thought I had it on mute. I really apologize, and all is good. Great. Firstly, I think this is wonderful having this forum, and I think we're hearing some good constructive ideas. Fantastic. I have to agree pretty much with everything that Tom Stroop said. I think he made some excellent points that I really agree with all around, including I really do think that bricking, if we want to keep the town's charm, we need to be consistent. There needs to be a match with what we've done along Main Street. Any paving that goes down these side streets really needs to be bricked so that we have maintained the consistency of the charm of the town. I think that's something that the town residents were willing to go along with, even though it costs more. I feel that's an important, I can see the advantages of paving some down here. This will be heavily trafficked. If we're going to do it, I think we don't cut costs. I think we do it right the first time. And I do remember the mistakes that were made in front of Town Hall when the initial concreting was done there, and went with the cheaper quote. And it was just a horrible mass of concrete that didn't have any proper expansion joints and looked awful and had to be redone. So I'd hate to see things be redone here. And the other thing I'd like to say was that the pavilion is going in. This is going to change things. And I wonder whether in general, it would not be wiser to wait till that construction is done and tie in and plan along with it. And we'll get more of a sense of the way people are walking, the way traffic is going, so that we're actually planning with the pavilion. It will change, that's going to bring people in different ways. And maybe sometimes it might be better to just wait and let's see how this is all working and it doesn't get torn up by the pavilion construction traffic, as Stephen pointed out. So wait till that's all done and then say, right, now what's really going to work with what we've got here. And then the final thing I was going to say, closing off the end of, off Fifth Avenue. That was, I can see a lot of advantages that I think people could still move around. I think we should seriously consider that, or it will continue to be a bit of a cut through down there, I think, for all those people along there. So I do agree with that. So thank you for all this input. I think this is great. Our townspeople often have a lot of really good ideas, and I think we're hearing some good feedback. So thank you, Robert and town staff, for considering all these ideas. Thanks.
Thank you, Angela. And again, we're waiting on the 45% plans from ZHA, who are the engineering consultants for the pavilion. But the last rendering I saw had the entrance and exit pretty much right here in this area. But again, that's 45%. So we'll wait and see what town council approves or disapproves. Mr. Spears, long time no talk.
Yeah, nice to be in a forum like this.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I don't think that we need to pave anything down there myself, just because, I mean, we got so much water coming down that road flowing toward my house that it's unbelievable. I don't know, you're gonna plant a big retention pond right there on that corner, or what do you got going on with that? Because that's gonna be a big problem when you pave that much more road and that much more parking. And to tell you the truth, if you're gonna do handicap parking, you do need to come up with some kind of way to get the golf carts off the, the sidewalk, right? I mean, handicap accessibility is not handicap accessibility if you got a golf cart parked everywhere on town, right? So we need to maybe find a place for them to park. Maybe they have to be like a car. Aren't they kind of like a car?
Yeah, I mean, there's variations of, the size of golf cart parking, motorcycle parking, stuff like that, that we can explore.
But I think handicap accessibility would be great. We can probably do that without paving the road, just paving the parking spots, right? Along there, or even closer to where you really want it, up there in front of the brewery, make that all handicap parking there. And then some more to the left. And no, not over there, on our side, that side, yeah. And then you got a lot of handicap parking for the future, right? And that's what we're trying to achieve, right?
Yeah, it's one of the things we're trying to achieve. Again, the parking's been there for a while. And that is an option. Again, it's an option that was part of an option B, to where we can just do this parking area right here.
Yeah, and then come up with some kind of a way to channel that water into a hole.
Yeah, we would make sure that we would get all the appropriate permits through South Florida Water Management, so on and so forth.
Because we flood, you know that.
I did not know that, but Tanya's on and we'll make sure she knows that.
Well, I mean, the church across the street from me has two huge ditches that we've seen full twice this year. We did have two good storms, so.
Yeah,
But the water level's high. We need to control our water. I agree with everything they said about the trees, the runoff of the bad materials coming off of it, killing probably my trees down the street before they get to the Lake of Chains, right? So I would like to see that, we do some what we call, substantial construction, not construction that's going to hurt our future, right?
Yeah.
And this part of the road right here, it flows right to the lake. So, I mean, we got to control that. But that's all I got to say. I'm pretty happy with, if you want to do some handicap parking along that little side there, that's fine. The road itself, the maintenance with the dirt, I'd rather deal with that than and closing off the road. I agree with that, but that's my only way out in the morning. So I kind of don't agree with that.
I'm not going to say it, but that's my only way out in the morning and in the afternoon when I'm leaving.
I know. I mean, I like that route, so I don't really want it closed, but I do if you need it,
Understood.
I'm sorry, my wife's yelling at me.
We'd close all those roads if we didn't need them.
Yeah, you see, she wants to close the road, I guess.
All right. Well,
thank you very much for listening to me, guys.
Yeah, I'll mark it down as a war of the roses or the war of the spears, as far as wants to close.
Well, like I say, I think we need to talk about it more. This is, just because we have money doesn't mean we need to spend money.
Understood.
I like the idea of giving handicap accessibility, and I like the idea of maybe getting the golf carts off the grass, to tell you the truth.
And I wish I had a magic wand that would stop that, but I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon.
Well, good luck.
I know.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Spears.
Thank you, John.
Deborah Neal. Deborah, I did receive your email, and I think it was forwarded to town council, so we're
Okay,
ready.
can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think that as you were considering the options of if it has to be paved, that's the first option is not pave it, but if it has to be paved, I hope we're not even considering blacktop or any such thing. It has to be permeable for the good of the environment and the lakes and the trees and everything. I mean, that's just, I think that should be the first basic requirement. It needs to be permeable. Brick would be wonderful because it ties in with the other brick in the area. I know it costs more, but it's worth it. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right.
Okay.
And that's, I just want to, I think there's been a lot of good ideas on here and I do appreciate you opening it up, but I would that would be my preference, was that it be at least brick, but not even consider anything that was non-permeable. I just don't think that would be a good choice.
Okay. What are your thoughts about closing off Fifth and Forest?
I'm sorry?
What are your thoughts on closing the possibility of closing off Fifth and Forest?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing that.
Okay. What are your thoughts? Because I know it's been mentioned a couple of times, and I kind of want to get a pulse of the people that are on. What are your thoughts about closing off Fifth and Forest right here? I know John and his wife are split on that one, but do you have any thoughts on the possibility of closing this access point right here?
I think it's a good idea, no matter where we are, whether it's on Oakdale or anything, when we close something off, somebody's going to suffer, the residents, because they can't go the way they used to go. But on the other hand, I think it's essential that we protect our residential areas. And so it might be the price a few people may have to pay. But when you think of all of the traffic that comes down there looking for parking and just driving, looking for a cut through, that's really not fair to the residents of Forest and the area that's beyond there. So I would certainly, I don't consider myself an expert on that, but I can see where it would be a good idea, and I would support it if other people thought it was also worth it. But to me, it seems to be it's a risk benefit, a loss benefit kind of equation. And I think the benefit might be for the greater good for Windermere.
All right. Well, thank you for your comments, Deborah. And we do have your email, so thank you for both communications.
Okay.
All right. Circling back to Teresa Schwartzman-Myers. I can't read your cell phone. You have to unmute.
So I'm showing you the critical root zone of the trees. And the map that you're showing us there does not do justice. The critical root zone goes past 2 to 3 times past the drip line of the trees that you're showing there. So yes, it will impact the roots of the trees. So any paving that you're doing, any asphalt paving, any construction is going to impact the roots of those trees because they go well under that dirt road, all the way across to Dixie Creek and beyond, especially if they're oaks or any of your hardwoods. Also, the roots are in the first 6 inches of the tree. Hold on, let me get this back again. The critical root zone also extends in the first 6 inches. So anytime you're grubbing that soil to put in brick pavers or asphalt, you are taking out the critical root zone in the first 6 inches and well beyond the drip line. So to say that there's going to be no impacts to the trees, I'm not buying it, because here's the anatomy of the root system of your trees. It will impact the root zones. And that's why I'm suggesting that we not pave, that we not construct, that we not put non-pervious surface there, that you use decomposed granite. It meets the ADA guidelines. They use it at Wekiva Springs State Park, all the state parks. They use it in parking areas at botanical gardens. And it doesn't require grubbing the trees or doing damage to those critical root zones. Again, the organic compounds that you're throwing in there into the water from paving and the bricks, unless they're permeable pavers, they're going to block the water. Unless they're 100% permeable pavers, they're still going to block the water, and that water is going to cause stormwater runoff that's going to run into the Butler chains. So all the volatile organic compounds that'll be running down those pavers from Main Street will be dumping right into the Butler chain. I think we can spend our money wisely by reforesting the areas of Park Avenue and a lot of the streets, roads, and parks that are missing trees and have been missing trees since the 2004 hurricanes, the 2018 hurricanes, and then this year's hurricanes. We've lost significant tree canopy where we can take that money, better spend it by using decomposed granite and planting trees back where we desperately need them to control stormwater runoff and mitigate all the water that we're causing by all these paving projects. Plus, to Tom's point and everybody else, there's additional handicap parking in the library parking lot that you're not even talking about, with sidewalks that can get people to and from where they need to go. So you have additional handicap parking in the library as well. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Teresa. And again, with any project that we do include a certified arborist, Eric, who we've used in pretty much all of the projects that we've done. So any projects that we do moving forward would be done by a certified arborist to make sure that we're adhering to all the standards that we need to make sure the trees are protected. Brandy, you're next, and then Jason.
So I just want to circle back to a couple things. One, and I've been at all the meetings about the new pavilion. So with the position of the pavilion as it's currently proposed, I do think that most people that are going to utilize handicap parking are probably going to be parking in front of it. I don't really imagine people getting out in handicap vehicles, partway behind the building, down on the side of the building there, where we currently have the dirt parking lot. They're typically going to park, it's the shortest, easiest route to get in. So those current brick spots, if they were converted to handicap, I think would achieve that goal more. I have a unique perspective on the closing off the street. Being that we're next to the diverter and our street isn't even technically closed off, people can continue around the block. I can tell you from months and months of experience now that that's not what people do. They turn around every which way. So as much as I love the idea for blocking it off for the residents, I don't think that could honestly be accomplished unless there is some sort of turnaround for people to get out, because the first time we have an event and you've got all those parking spots full, be it, food truck, whatever it is, you're going to have people sitting on Fifth Avenue that can't get turned around. Because even I've been in that gravel parking lot on farmers market days when it's pretty full. And if every spot is full all the way down to the end and people park in the grass and whatever, you kind of have to back out of there. It's pretty tight depending on your vehicle. I have Priuses and I have a minivan. And I will tell you that minivan is mighty long to turn around in there, even though I can turn around on a dime in that thing. So it's good in concept, but you're going to need that turnaround. And then I don't know if you've seen the comments that Stephen Withers has been putting in the chat box, but he makes a lot of good points about the water runoff as well, because you take and potentially close off the street. And I know this is just an idea that's being tossed around tonight, or you pave that, you are going to need that water runoff. And even though you're going to comply with, South Water Management District, they are going to require retention somewhere.
Understood.
And if you have that retention, then that may very well take away from the parking spots that we currently have, because right now, as a gravel or a dirt parking lot, those spots are spots that people can park in that Watershed Management District is not going to make you make up, square footage for square footage of how much swale space you need for that. So that would be the other thing that I would add. And Teresa's absolutely right. I mean, I drove around the entire block today, and that's what I said. We have 2 parking spots, at the side of the town hall there, the south side of it, which is technically the library parking lot. And there are sidewalks that connect everywhere. So I do see a lot of people use those when they're going to different events that are happening at town hall. Even for our holiday hoopla, they were utilized, and people are going through the back side of town hall by the back porch. They're not going around out front necessarily. So those would just be my other added thoughts, because you're gonna need a turnaround if you dead end that street.
Understood.
Yeah.
And then with the 45% plans that I've seen, the bathrooms are located in this area with concessions located in this area. So we'll take a look at that when we hit the 45%, bring it to town council.
Right.
All right, Jason, circling back to you, bud.
Yeah, so in thinking more about the Fifth Avenue and Forest Ave closing it off, a couple thoughts came to my mind. I actually really like that idea, but I think we need to go further. That parking lot that's there, I believe you should redesign it a little bit. There's a lot of green space in there where, you know, it could be enlarged. A better berm could be built up, a better fence could be built up to really give a divide to the business side and the residential side. And an exit at the end of it could be put in so that we don't have that turnaround problem. And if you really closed off the Fifth Ave and the Forest and you bermed that up as well, where you're circling there, right, you could really get a lot more parking availability, golf carts and cars, tie that together, get some privacy for the residents on the other side, sound and noise control. And there is permeable paver systems out there. Belden makes one that is specifically designed for plazas and parking lots, qualifies for all the different certifications, et cetera, and would solve the water runoff issue. And it would look just like a brick paved street. I mean, it may cost more, yes, but I think that's really the direction we should be looking, because we, as others have pointed out, we do have a pavilion coming online. You know, we have businesses, we probably will have more businesses. And so I think we really should be looking at a big picture plan, or at least looking at this as a component of a big picture plan, not just, let's just brick this one little street and do something. We really need to get a big overview of solving a bunch of problems at once. And I think that parking lot redesign in closing the Fifth Avenue at the Forest intersection, I think that's going to play a big part in that.
Thank you, Jason. Am I speaking to Mr. or Mrs. Sears right now?
No, it's me again. No, I mean, we are kind of concerned about the trees right there that we're looking at, right? But aren't these trees all going to disappear with this new thing?
With the pavilion?
Yes.
I mean, this canopy is an old aerial. So there have been some trees that have been removed. In addition to that, the community room has been removed. I believe with the new orientation of the 45% plans, it's actually saving more trees than taking out trees. So there's like a camphor over here that may have to come out, and a smaller oak that may have to come out. But again, we're looking at replantings, pretty much in kind, utilizing not only the tree board funds, but also our tree mitigation funds and or just town funds to replant what we've lost, not only during the hurricanes, but also some of the other storms and construction.
Yeah, so I mean, there's going to be a lot of construction in that area. So, I mean, a lot of those trees are going to be damaged, I guarantee you, right, Teresa?
No,
I mean,
not necessarily.
you can't hardly build, you can't even hardly drive around a tree without killing it nowadays.
Like, as I showed you the picture, the drip line for trees goes beyond 2 to 3 times past the
Yep.
drip line.
Yeah.
And that's what people aren't thinking about. Those roots are already under that dirt road, under
Yeah.
all those dirt roads. That's how they're getting their water and their nutrients, is from those permeable surfaces, from the dirt roads. And anytime you pave over, whether it's pavers or asphalt, you're grubbing those roots, you are damaging the critical root zones of those trees and their ability to feed themselves and stand. You're literally taking off their anchors that allow them to stand up.
Yeah.
Those roots hold them up during hurricanes.
So
So
we're going to build a big stadium right there, and that's probably going to be the end of those trees, no matter what we do, right?
No, there, again, when we get to the February public input, but the greatest example I can provide as far as how the town takes care of its trees is the town admin facility. Everybody believed that the trees that are in the front were going to die. People believe that we wouldn't make adjustments to those facilities to save those trees, and we actually hit the roof to make sure that so the tree or the town is very conscious when it comes to all of these items. So that's why we always consult with a certified arborist when we move forward with any project, and we would do the same with this one.
Well, and then going back to the circle at the bottom, yeah, right. You just can't block it off and make everybody try to back out of there. Obviously, it would have to be redesigned so there's a turnaround spot.
Yeah, I mean,
and obviously you'd have to have big trucks to be able to turn around down there, because you have big trucks riding down my road all the time.
yeah, the trucks, but the deliveries that you have to Dixie Cream for the food vendors,
The church.
the church, so on and so forth. The best example of how, I hate to say not to do it, would be Pine Street with the hammerhead. That's a nightmare. So if this was an option or something to be talked about, we would have to definitely have an engineer take a look at it and make sure that the turn radius is good for, solid waste trucks, delivery trucks, fire trucks, so on and so forth. But yeah, this is all good comments as far as, okay, if that is a possibility, what do we do? We're looking at, just bricks, or we're looking at pavement, or, all that is good information that we can move forward with. So I appreciate it, John.
Thank you.
All righty. All the comments that are in the chat are recorded, so it'll be part of the record of the public input session. Is there any additional comments, questions, so on and so forth? I'll be taking this to town council in January, just to get a feel from them of what they want to do, whether they just want to hold off on this and gather more information. We didn't want to do this in between, this is not on the December 13th town council meeting. And we didn't want to do it during the holiday time because, again, we know that a lot of you are traveling and have prior commitments. So this will not be discussed until at least probably mid-January. So, if there's nothing further, I wish you all a happy and safe holiday season. Thank you for participating. This will be recorded. It'll be put on our YouTube channel. So please, if somebody could not attend tonight, they'll be more than happy to be able to access that on our YouTube channel. And staff will meet, we'll go over some of these ideas, and we'll cost everything out and provide pretty much town council with a la carte menu of what we discussed tonight, the prices, what was the intent, getting to Tom Stroop's comments relative to the brick and stuff like that. So again, I appreciate everybody's comments. I appreciate your participation. This makes our job a lot easier when you have this kind of public input. So I just want to thank everybody for their participation tonight. So with that said, have a happy and safe holiday season, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you.